There's a story we all need to hear, one that stirs something deep in the soul. A story about defiance, about bravery, about choosing yourself when the world says you cannot. This is the story of the woman who chose herself. The weight of societal expectations can be a relentless force, particularly for women who are often burdened with roles and definitions crafted by tradition, culture, and history. These expectations, passed down over generations, come wrapped in layers of subtle commands: what to wear, how to speak, whom to love, and even what dreams to pursue. They whisper that the path has already been carved, and the only duty is to follow it. For many, the choice to comply feels less like a choice and more like a necessity, a survival tactic in a world that often resists change. But what happens when someone stands up and says no? What happens when a woman refuses to fit neatly into the mold prescribed to her? This defiance isn't born from arrogance or a desire to provoke. It stems from a deep recognition that the path laid out before her does not reflect her truth. To defy expectations is to look at a life pre-written by others and decide to write your own story, no matter how many pages must be torn out along the way. This defiance is not easy. It is an act of courage that often comes with a heavy cost. The woman who chooses to step off the well-trodden path faces resistance from all corners. Family may question her decisions, friends may drift away, and society at large may label her selfish, rebellious, or ungrateful. The judgment is sharp and unyielding, as if choosing oneself is an act of betrayal. Yet she persists. She persists because the alternative, a life dictated by others, feels far more suffocating than the challenges of carving her own way. In her defiance, she must grapple with uncertainty. The road ahead is rarely clear. There are no guidebooks for those who choose to reject convention, no safety nets for those who leap into the unknown. It requires an unshakable belief in one's worth, a belief that is often tested by the inevitable stumbles and failures. Every misstep becomes an opportunity for critics to say, "See, we told you so," but she presses on, not to prove them wrong, but to prove herself right. Her defiance inspires change, not just in her own life, but in the lives of those who witness her journey. It becomes a quiet revolution, a ripple effect that challenges others to question their own limitations. The act of choosing oneself, of defying expectations, is contagious. It breaks the illusion that the status quo is unchangeable and shows that the world is not as rigid as it seems. The woman who defies expectations is not rejecting her roots, she is redefining them. She is saying that tradition can be honored without being shackled by it. That individuality is not a threat, but a gift. Her courage does not seek to destroy, but to rebuild, to create space for others to live authentically. It is not the loudness of her rebellion, but the quiet strength of her conviction that leaves an indelible mark on the world around her. Self-liberation is an act of profound personal emancipation, one that is often misunderstood and underappreciated. It's not just about freedom in the conventional sense of breaking free from physical chains, but about a deep internal liberation, the freedom from the fears, limitations, and expectations that others impose on you. It's about reclaiming your life from the grip of outside forces, and more importantly, from the internalized beliefs that have been cultivated over time. The woman who chooses self-liberation takes the reins of her own existence, refusing to let anyone else decide who she should be or how she should live. Self-liberation is not an instant transformation. It is a gradual, ongoing process of self-awareness and self-acceptance. It begins with an awakening, a realization that, for too long, one has been living by the rules of others. These rules are often not even conscious decisions. They're ingrained cultural standards, family expectations, and societal pressures. The woman who seeks liberation doesn't see these pressures as personal attacks, but as the invisible chains that have limited her potential. She recognizes that in order to truly live her life, she must first break free from these invisible constraints. The process of self-liberation is often messy. It's not a smooth, linear journey where the path ahead is always clear. It requires painful introspection and the courage to face uncomfortable truths about oneself. She may uncover parts of herself that she had long repressed, fears, insecurities, or desires that had been pushed aside in order to meet the expectations of others. These realizations are both painful and liberating, for they bring her face to face with her own power. In embracing the fullness of who she is, she finds the courage to step outside of the box she has been placed in. To liberate oneself is to be willing to let go of the need for approval, to abandon the idea that one's worth is measured by how well they conform to societal expectations. The woman who embraces self-liberation understands that her value is not dependent on others' opinions of her. She doesn't need to shrink herself or mold herself into a version that others find palatable. She recognizes that her voice, her body, her mind, everything about her is worthy of respect simply because it is hers. She no longer seeks validation from the world, for she has already validated herself. In self-liberation, there's a powerful shift in perspective. Instead of seeing the world as a place where she must compete for recognition or status, she begins to see it as a playground for exploration and growth. She no longer operates out of fear or a sense of scarcity, but from a place of abundance and possibility. She understands that the world does not need to be changed to fit her. It is she who must change to fit her own vision of the life she wants to create. This change is not one of ego or selfishness, but one of self-empowerment. True self-liberation is also about forgiving oneself. It's about releasing guilt over past mistakes and understanding that they are not defining moments, but lessons. The woman who liberates herself refuses to live in the shadow of her past. She steps into the light of her present, armed with the knowledge that she is capable of shaping the future she desires. The beauty of self-liberation is that it doesn't require perfection, only a willingness to choose freedom over fear, authenticity over conformity, and self-love over self-doubt. Overcoming adversity is not just about surviving difficult circumstances, it is about transforming those challenges into stepping stones toward personal growth. Life doesn't hand anyone a smooth path, and adversity, in its many forms, is an inevitable part of the human experience. Yet it is often through the harshest trials that the greatest strength is forged. The woman who faces adversity head-on doesn't just endure, it reshapes her, molds her into something stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The first step in overcoming adversity is the recognition that suffering is part of life. It's easy to fall into despair when life doesn't go as planned or when everything seems to be stacked against you. But in those moments when the weight of the world is pressing down, there is a choice to succumb to the hardship or to rise above it. The woman who overcomes adversity does not deny the pain or the struggle. She faces it squarely, acknowledging it without letting it define her. She understands that adversity is not a reflection of her worth, it is a challenge to be met and conquered. A critical element of overcoming adversity is resilience. It's the ability to bounce back after being knocked down, to gather oneself after facing setbacks, and to continue moving forward despite the obstacles. Resilience is not a passive trait, it's an active force. It requires the woman to dig deep within herself and summon the strength to continue, even when every part of her feels like giving up. Resilience doesn't mean never faltering. It means knowing that every time she falls, she will rise again, stronger than before. With each setback, she learns a little more about herself and what she's capable of. Equally important in overcoming adversity is the ability to adapt. Life's challenges are unpredictable. Circumstances change, plans are disrupted, and dreams can feel out of reach. The woman who overcomes adversity does not cling stubbornly to a single vision of what her life should look like. Instead, she is flexible, willing to adjust her course when necessary. She learns to view obstacles not as barriers, but as opportunities to innovate, to rethink, and to find new ways to achieve her goals. Adaptability allows her to remain focused on the bigger picture, rather than getting lost in the details of every hurdle that arises. Another crucial aspect of overcoming adversity is the importance of mindset. The way a woman approaches her struggles can make all the difference. If she sees herself as a victim, then adversity will seem insurmountable, a force too great to fight against. But when she shifts her perspective, viewing her challenges as opportunities for growth, she takes back control. The woman who overcomes adversity reframes her narrative, choosing to see each difficulty as a lesson rather than a defeat. She knows that the hardship she faces today does not determine her future, but the strength and wisdom she gains from overcoming it will. Overcoming adversity also requires a sense of perseverance. It's easy to become disheartened when progress feels slow or when the end goal seems unreachable. The woman who persists, however, understands that success is rarely immediate. She remains committed to her vision, putting in the necessary work even when the results are not yet visible. Each small step, each moment of effort, brings her closer to overcoming the adversity that stands before her. She doesn't allow doubt or frustration to derail her journey. Instead, she harnesses these feelings and uses them as fuel to continue the fight. The process of overcoming adversity is transformative. The woman who faces hardship with courage and determination emerges not only victorious but profoundly changed. Her confidence grows, her understanding of herself deepens, and her capacity for compassion expands. Through adversity, she learns what she's truly made of, what lies at the core of her being, and emerges with an unshakable belief that no matter what life throws her way, she has the strength to overcome it. Empowerment through choices is a fundamental principle of personal freedom. It is the recognition that our lives are shaped not by what happens to us, but by the decisions we make in response to life's challenges and opportunities. Empowerment, in this sense, is the ability to claim control over one's own destiny through conscious, deliberate action. When a woman recognizes the power in her choices, she begins to unlock a level of agency that can transform not only her own life, but also the lives of those around her. At the heart of empowerment through choices is the realization that we are never completely at the mercy of external circumstances. Life will always present difficulties, but how we respond to them is entirely within our control. Every choice we make, no matter how small, shapes the path ahead. This can be both liberating and daunting. The woman who understands the power of her choices knows that each decision is an opportunity to take ownership of her life, to actively steer it in the direction she wants to go. It is not about passively accepting whatever comes her way. It is about asserting her right to choose, to create, and to change. The power of choice comes with great responsibility. Every decision carries consequences, and the woman who embraces empowerment through choices accepts that she must live with the outcomes of her actions. But rather than viewing this responsibility as a burden, she sees it as an opportunity for growth. With each choice, she learns more about herself, her values, and her desires. Even mistakes become lessons as they teach her what does not serve her and refine her understanding of what truly matters. She understands that making mistakes is not a failure, it is simply part of the process of creating the life she wants. In this way, each choice contributes to her ongoing evolution. Empowerment through choices also means having the courage to make decisions that align with one's authentic self, even when those choices defy the expectations of others. It is easy to live a life dictated by the opinions and desires of family, society, or peers. But the woman who embraces empowerment knows that true fulfillment can only come when she listens to her own inner voice. She is not afraid to make choices that honor her own values, even if those decisions are unpopular or misunderstood. She refuses to be confined by other people's limitations, choosing instead to live on her own terms. In addition, empowerment through choices involves the ability to set boundaries. To choose what is and is not acceptable in one's life is a powerful act of self-respect. The woman who sets boundaries understands that she cannot give everything to everyone, and that her energy, time, and resources must be preserved for the things that truly matter to her. These boundaries are not walls to keep others out, but rather markers that define where her personal power lies. In setting boundaries, she teaches others how to treat her, and she asserts that she is worthy of respect. Another vital aspect of empowerment through choices is the ability to make decisions based on long-term goals, not short-term comfort. Many of life's most rewarding choices are not the easiest or most immediate. But the woman who chooses empowerment understands that true satisfaction comes from doing what is right, not what is easy. She is willing to make sacrifices in the present for a better future, whether that means putting in the hard work to build a career, choosing personal growth over temporary pleasures, or standing firm in her convictions even when the world is pushing her in a different direction. Ultimately, empowerment through choices is about claiming ownership of one's life. It is the realization that, while we cannot control everything that happens to us, we can always control how we respond. The woman who chooses empowerment sees herself as the author of her own story. She makes decisions with confidence and clarity, knowing that each choice is a step toward living a life that is authentically hers. This empowerment becomes a force that propels her forward, allowing her to navigate life's challenges with grace, purpose, and an unshakable belief in her ability to shape her own destiny. Inspiration for others is one of the most profound gifts a person can give. It's not always about grand gestures or remarkable achievements. Often, the most inspiring acts are those that come from within, from the quiet moments of personal strength, perseverance, and authenticity. When a woman chooses to live her truth, to face adversity with grace, and to embrace her own power, she doesn't just change her life, she changes the lives of those around her. Her actions serve as a beacon, lighting the way for others who might be struggling to find their own path. Inspiration is contagious. It has a ripple effect that extends far beyond the individual. When a woman decides to break free from the limitations placed upon her by society, by others, or even by herself, she shows others that it is possible to live authentically, regardless of the circumstances. Her courage in the face of challenges, her determination to push forward when everything seems stacked against her, becomes a silent encouragement to those who are watching her journey. They see her resilience, and in her, they find the strength to keep moving, to keep fighting for what they want out of life. One of the most powerful ways inspiration manifests is through the way a woman handles adversity. The struggles she faces are real, and they might be tough. But how she meets these struggles, whether with anger or grace, with bitterness or strength, becomes a lesson to others. Her choices reflect a deep understanding that adversity doesn't have to break you. In fact, it can build you. As she rises from every setback, every failure, every challenge, she shows others that resilience is not about being immune to hardship, but about continuing to move forward, regardless of the obstacles. This is the kind of inspiration that ignites hope in others, reminding them that they too can face their own struggles with dignity and resolve. Inspiration also comes from the woman who makes the conscious decision to live her life on her own terms. She refuses to conform to the norms, the roles, or the expectations placed upon her. Instead, she takes ownership of her own identity, choosing to define herself rather than allowing the world to define her. This authenticity is a powerful form of inspiration, especially in a world that often pushes individuals to hide their true selves. When others see someone living openly and unapologetically, it encourages them to do the same. It shows them that it is not only possible but necessary to honor their own uniqueness, no matter how different they might be from the crowd. Furthermore, the woman who chooses to empower herself through a decision serves as an inspiration for others to do the same. Her choices are not always easy. They often require sacrifices, hard work, and even stepping into the unknown. But it is in her decision to take control of her own destiny that others see the possibility for their own empowerment. When they witness someone take a stand for what they believe in, make difficult decisions based on their values, and move forward despite fear, they are reminded that they too have the power to make choices that align with their own aspirations. Inspiration also comes in the form of kindness and compassion. A woman who chooses to live with empathy, to lend a hand when someone is struggling, or to share wisdom when it is needed, is offering something invaluable. These small acts of humanity have the power to uplift and motivate others. When someone witnesses another person's kindness, it not only restores their faith in humanity, but also encourages them to pass on that kindness to others, creating a cycle of inspiration that continues to grow. Ultimately, the woman who inspires others does so simply by being herself, by choosing to live with courage, authenticity, and strength. She doesn't need to seek out admiration or recognition. Her actions speak for themselves. The example she sets is enough to motivate others to rise above their own limitations, to strive for more, and to become the best versions of themselves. Through her choices, her resilience, and her kindness, she leaves a legacy of inspiration that will continue to resonate long after she has moved on from any particular struggle. A legacy of courage is not built on a single moment of bravery, but rather on a lifetime of decisions, actions, and perseverance in the face of adversity. It is the kind of legacy that endures, not because it is loud or celebrated in grand gestures, but because it represents an unwavering commitment to living authentically, standing up for what's right, and pushing through the toughest challenges with strength and grace. The woman who leaves a legacy of courage does so not by seeking recognition, but by living a life that speaks to the power of resilience, determination, and integrity. Courage in this context is not the absence of fear, but the ability to face fear head on and still act. It's the woman who, despite her doubts, her insecurities, or the obstacles in her way, makes a choice to move forward anyway. She doesn't wait for the fear to dissipate because she knows that it never fully goes away. Instead, she steps into it, confident in her ability to navigate it, to use it as fuel rather than a barrier. Her courage is quiet yet powerful. It doesn't demand attention, but it commands respect. Those who witness her actions are inspired by her ability to stand firm, even when the world seems intent on knocking her down. A legacy of courage is also about standing up for others, especially when it is unpopular or difficult to do so. The woman who chooses to act courageously in the face of injustice, inequality, or oppression is creating a legacy that transcends her individual life. By choosing to fight for what is right, even when the odds are stacked against her, she sets an example for others to follow. Her courage is contagious. It shows others that they too can stand up, speak out, and take action, even when the consequences are uncertain. It creates a ripple effect, one that spreads through communities, families, and generations, instilling in others the belief that they too can make a difference. The courage to choose oneself is another vital part of this legacy. The woman who chooses courage over conformity, who refuses to live according to someone else's standards, who dares to pursue her own dreams and desires, no matter how unconventional, leaves behind a blueprint for others to do the same. Her legacy is one of self-empowerment. It says it is okay to be different, to carve your own path, and to make choices that align with who you truly are. This kind of courage creates space for others to find their own voices and live their truths without fear of judgment or rejection. Furthermore, a legacy of courage is built on the willingness to be vulnerable. Courage does not mean being impervious to pain or struggle. It means having the strength to face those things and remain open to growth. The woman who faces her own vulnerability with grace teaches others that it is okay to not have all the answers, to be imperfect, and to ask for help when needed. And showing others that vulnerability is not weakness, but a form of strength. She helps dismantle the walls that many people build around themselves. She teaches that true courage lies not in pretending to be invincible, but in having the bravery to show up as yourself, flaws, fears, and all. A legacy of courage also reflects the importance of perseverance. It's about continuing to show up day after day, even when the journey feels long, the rewards are distant, and the path ahead is unclear. The woman who perseveres, who faces each new challenge with determination and grit, leaves behind a legacy of unwavering tenacity. Her courage is in her commitment and her refusal to give up, even when everything seems stacked against her. She teaches others that failure is not the end, it is simply a part of the journey. Her persistence becomes a guiding light for those who follow in her footsteps. In the end, a legacy of courage is a gift that keeps giving. It doesn't end with the woman who lives it. It continues to inspire and motivate long after she is gone. It shapes the future by empowering others to face their fears, to stand up for what is right, to live authentically, and to keep going even when the road is hard. The woman who leaves such a legacy may not be celebrated in the traditional sense, but her impact will be felt for generations. A silent force that encourages others to be brave, to be strong, and to live with purpose. In conclusion, the journey of a woman who chooses herself is one of immense courage, resilience, and transformation. By embracing the power of choice, overcoming adversity, and living authentically, she not only shapes her own life, but leaves behind a legacy that inspires others to do the same. Her actions speak louder than words, showing that true empowerment comes from within through the decisions she makes, the boundaries she sets, and the love she gives herself. In the face of fear, uncertainty, and challenges, she stands tall, leaving a trail of strength, courage, and possibility for others to follow. This is the legacy of a woman who chose herself a legacy that encourages all to rise above limitations, break free from societal constraints, and live a life true to their own dreams and desires. Through her example, she teaches us that the most powerful thing we can do is choose ourselves time and time again.